if Riot made a tournament in the beginning of the split where the academy players are like mechanically good and the LCS players are kind of mechanically bad, like you would see a lot of upsets.
That's
I think it would.
amazing.
I think it would change perception a lot.
Is it like clear cut that you think that you're better than NRG going into the split?
Obviously, I'm confident that we're the best team, and
Look, if you talk to a lot of people at NRG, I think you'll get the answer that, yeah, it's fucking unfair, and
I can promise you there is nothing spring about this split right now, but alas, the LCS is finally back to kick off 2024, and so is starting off 2024, we have some pretty big changes for those that have not paid attention since last August when the LCS was last here. Two teams are gone in Golden Guardians and Evil Geniuses, and more importantly, we've got some format changes coming to the league. We are back on weekends. The broadcast is going to be speeding up rapidly as they pre-record draft, and content segments are already pre-recorded and then put in immediately after games. So basically the turnaround time between games is going to drop pretty significantly, and they're just overall working on fan communication and improving the broadcast to a certain extent. Now, while I personally don't think all of these changes, barring the weekend change is massive and back to where we should be, everything else I don't think makes that substantial of a difference on the product. But I got the chance to talk to NRG's Croissant about some of these changes, not from a fan point of view, but at least from the team side, and how it impacts them.
I'd say that for the live changes, definitely we have to change some of the data that we are valuing. We have to shift around like our priorities on like analyzing and deconstructing how different regions play the game, because we are just going to be here first. And for a long time, like I've coached a lot of different teams, and I've had pretty varied approaches on some teams. We do draw a lot more from like T1 and from like the best team in the world at any given time. And on other teams, there was more just raw theory crafting. It depends on the players, depends on the staff, but strictly through the format, we are going to have to, every team is going to have to value original thinking more, right? And it's interesting because we could even end up at a place where a lot of teams are like trying to do that, but then like when we see LEC, not really LEC, when we see LCK, LPL play on a patch after us, then does our meta change entirely, and how much time do we have even remaining on 13.2 or 14.2 or 3 before we have to then again jump to the very next patch? So I'd say that, you know, that's going to be a really big change for us, and I don't think if it's good for viewership, then it's good. On the team side, no matter the format, no matter the conditions, like I just figure out what I can do to make our team win and put us in the best position to do so. And yeah, we're willing to do whatever it takes to give our players the best edge. And then that ties us into the conversation of like the draft changes, where I think there are, you know, it's going to be a little bit tricky to flip between like the regular season additional prep and then going back into playoffs. Will be like the same as every other region, and then we'll shift into worlds that way. But it is cool because it's like kind of working with training wheels in a sense, right? It's I think it's really good for developmental teams, frankly. I think that like teams like 100, teams like
Probably Immortals and Dig.
Yeah, but even like FlyQuest, right? It's like a lot of the nerves, a lot of the difficult part of like players at the way that like it feels the league is currently the state of the league and how long the LCS has been around for. Like we have matured to a point where most rookies, when they're coming in, there isn't like a huge gap of knowledge. There's just a huge gap in usually quality of habits, right? The habit quality that a player will have when they're first jumping from NACL tier 2 to LCS is going to be, they're going to be punished more frequently. And it's not a punish that they've never seen before. It's just, if you have 20 different options in your toolkit and you only regularly see like 5 of them used and like at the NACL level, and it's like, oh, it's like a big thing for one of the other 15 tools to be used. And in LCS, those other like more niche tools will be used more regularly in the correct opportunities and situations where it's applicable. And then you add, you take whatever like delta you see there, and you add that again to like LPL and LCK. It's like we know a lot of these punishes, which is why we try to use them when we go to international play, and like whether that's level ones, whether that's just different macro adaptations, but having this opportunity should help. It's like kind of like a leveling act, right? It's a balancing act, because part of the strength of having a player like Contracts or who he is, like, okay, we finished the draft. The whole time, like some teams up until like the last pick, they're still talking about the champions, right? They're still trying to figure out the draft part as much as I can, whether that's like before the match starts and the draft starts, or like after phase 1, already mapping out like this is what our composition does. So giving my team extra lead time to start planning when they only have like a minute or two after the last champion's locked in to like spawning in the base, right? And if there's no pods and stuff and it goes as planned. So there's like skill expression there in terms of in the regular drafting format for a coach to give lead time to the players, and then for the players to start making a plan. And so it's like the thing that you're being tested on in those circumstances is how quickly can you make a cohesive plan, both for the early game and then also understanding your win conditions as the game unfolds. Now it's like you can make that so much more detailed, but you can also where other teams definitely like missed something, or they just like the extra 20 seconds that we as a coaching staff gave to our players mattered. It doesn't matter, but again, it's the same thing as, it doesn't matter now, right? But it's the same thing as the difference between a live and a live patch and a patch where you have more time and more data, like international data to work with, which is just we know what it means and we know what the implications of it are. And obviously we won the LCS and we did well at Worlds in the previous format, but if this improves the viewership experience, which this one like definitely does, and the live patch one is like a theoretical one where we're like we'll need time to figure out if this is something that like people enjoy watching, or if it feels like jarring, like our play being so different from like the rest of the world, etc. But I expect both changes to be to have a positive effect, and then I think that's great, right? I have to start thinking about it from like a league-wide perspective on the success, but obviously I care most about winning, right? And so it's just, I think about how these changes impact NRG and our competitiveness, and yeah, I mean, like I think we're well equipped to deal with these changes, but yeah, so those things. And then weekends, definitely, I know a lot of people liked having the ability to actually do something on a weekend, but you know, I like working 7 days a week, and just so it doesn't matter if I'm off on Monday or if I'm off on Sunday or whatever. So
I guess just follow up on that then in theory we could technically see more of a discrepancy between regular season and playoffs in terms of like somebody, you occasionally have those teams that jump up to like third or fourth in the standings with like a late run in best of ones. You already have that difference going from best of ones to best of fives, but on top of that, you're now having a difference of like you're truncating the amount of time that people have even further. So we could see an even bigger swing of somebody making playoffs and then bombing out, especially some of the younger players that might not be used to it.
yeah, and that could happen, and it would be really interesting narratively, I think, if that happened, because we've had teams come off to a strong start maybe because of meta read, but if a team came off to a strong start because of preparation or like stronger ability to just like adapt to the changes, and like there's possible that players just lose focus, right? Like they go through the draft, they're sitting around, like a lot of players, like their brains are literally, and their bodies have been conditioned over years of professional play to like get in the zone, like starting from a certain point and then thinking about the game and then in those chunks, right, those 30 to 50-minute chunks. And if you now extend that, like a lot of people, if you extend that period even by 20 minutes, that can be like you're asking them to stay at this heightened level of focus for like an extra 30% amount of time, right? So it's like that could be really interesting. There could be players that just don't like, especially they could get off to a slow start and like could impact like like we only have 14 games, such and such. So I'm really interested to see how that happens. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like it's good for younger players, and it's good because you get training wheels. And then, I mean, if you got to playoffs and it's just a good opportunity, then yeah, you have less time in between games, but you it can be also like that kind of environment shift can be very it can be energizing when you hit playoffs and you hit that kind of run. So definitely excited for. I didn't think about it in terms of like I only think about it for my team, but yeah, there could be other teams that really struggle to make that adaptation from regular season to playoffs.
Damn, I forgot about the pre-recorded drafts. Well, start off, I'm really glad that LCS is back on weekends. I think that's a lot better. Obviously, you know, Thursday, Friday was great, but not as good as the weekends. And it also kind of feels a lot better in terms of like being a player. Your friends outside of the LCS usually don't have Thursday, Friday off, which is like at the end of Friday is when you get like some time. And like, I guess Saturday would be our off day. But now it's like, it feels better because I have like Sunday off and I can actually, or Saturday and Sunday off, so I can actually like spend more time with people. So that feels good. And also viewership up, hopefully. For the live patch, that one's like gonna be the one that's the most interesting to me, because I mean, how it used to work before, right, is that people would play solo queue and then they could Slack and just look at what the best things that people were playing is and then copy that, which means that like you have a faster time to adapt to that and it's a lot easier to do that. Now you kind of have to keep an eye out and actively be playing a lot of solo queue to like always know it's going to be good. And if you're not, then there's going to be some times where I guarantee you some players will be like have a really bad week, or like it's just going to be uncharacteristic because now you can't slack off, or now you can't like relax for like 1 week, you know? Which is what a lot of players would do. So
in terms of the actual format itself for the LCS, now that we're down to just 8 teams, it is going to be a double round robin, still best of ones between all 8 teams, meaning you will play 14 total games each split, assuming summer remains the same. And playoffs, we still don't fully know the format yet. So I have 2 gripes with this that I just want to put out there. First and foremost, I'm not a fan of best of ones anymore after watching Worlds and other regions. I want best of 3s at a minimum. I'm not alone in that. Travis Gafford did a poll where he thought the best of ones were still the optimal way. The majority of fans spoke out against that, at least that follow him or in his sphere. And on top of that, this is a conversation that also is in play currently with Korea as they kind of put their gripes out to Riot as well, that teams just aren't playing enough. And while the LCK definitely plays more than we do, there's a potential if you're a team that doesn't go to Worlds that you play a total of what, like 38 to 40 games all year across 30 days? That's nothing when there's no physical limitations to this. Every team in baseball is guaranteed to play, what, 180 games across like 160 some days. They do have some doubleheaders. And League of Legends, we play 30 some? No, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I would love to have a conversation with somebody within Riot to see what we can do to remedy this, because in my opinion, at least, the current format isn't the greatest. Dude, it is like 10 degrees and my hand is shaking on the microphone. All right, let's get to LCS power rankings for this split. Kicking it off in 8th place, I've got Dignitas. My biggest question for them is going to be, which Rich do we see more of this split? The Rich that came out, it had fantastic counter picks and was outplaying people in top lane, or the Rich that comes out and just fumbles? You've got less experienced players in both XU and Tomo that are gonna need time, and the volatility ain't gonna be good for them. Ios is finally getting his first full year shot on a roster, which I think is good. He was part of that C9 experiment a few years ago. And Dove is another import coming into the LCS LCS that historically imports have come in and smashed right away, and he very well could, but I'm getting less and less sold on this specific style of importing, which I'll get into more with Immortals, but I don't know. I'm just not seeing how all these pieces on Dignitas click together, and maybe management will prove me wrong, and maybe there's something in the Magic that I'm not seeing. Maybe it's that Dove and Rich connection, but I don't know. It's not doing anything for me. Speaking of Immortals, at number 7, I've got them. I think Tactical might be the most slept on player in the LCS right now. He overperformed heavily last split, and the question is, can he do it again, notably with an upgraded support, in my opinion, in Olay? Well, it depends on the Olay that we get. Do we get the Olay that was Team Liquid and, this popping off Olay that could win the league, or do we get Golden Guardians Olay? Who knows? He's been away with military service, so he's coming back for the first time, and we could see any range of play from him. You never know. The two notable callouts are Mask and Castle for Immortals, which are imports coming in that we don't know how they're going to perform. It's hard to predict when these players come in. We could get somebody that pops off like M&S early and fades in the end. We could get somebody like Berserker, but we could get like a Bjergsen and Jensen type player that's going to be here for a long period of time, but we just don't know. But in general, one of the things that I just want to see more from importing specifically is I want the people that we import to either be these big name players that are coming in and slotting into a roster where it makes sense, or younger players that we're getting from other regions and they grow up here basically. They get their big chance in the LCS and then they end up staying here. That's exactly what Berserker did, and Impact is the other side of that coin where he's a high level signing. I don't like signing these academy players from other regions who have been in the system for a long period of time, who have had multiple chances and now they're getting a chance over here. It feels like a waste of an import slot to me. So can't say that I'm all that impressed by the importing from the bottom two teams here, but we'll see. The players I would like people to take chances on, if you are not going to do that style of it. Shopify being at number 6 then exemplifies that, because you have players like Fake God and Zazul who are now getting a chance where historically they would have been imports or mid-level imports from different regions. Instead, they're getting another shot. For Fake God, I thought about this yesterday, but the comparison I would give him is that he is the Tim Tebow of the LCS right now. One of the better academy players that we've had who goes in and crushes, has multiple titles now, I think, but so far in pro has not been able to make it work. And the question is, will this time around of coming back to pro, will he be better than he was previously? Maybe, but there's a difference between being good in academy and being good in the LCS. He was better than Sniper in the developmental leagues. However, I have faith that Sniper will have a higher ceiling once he gets to pro. Think about Josh Allen for my Buffalo Bills fans watching the playoffs this weekend. Was he great in college or high school? Not really. But then he gets to the pros, and now he's playing against Patrick Mahomes on a consistent basis. So yeah, there are going to be people who are not great at that amateur and mid-level, but then once they hit the pros are going to be great. Maybe Fake God can finally break into that threshold. We'll see. The other person you got to watch out for is Insanity. His second full year, I'm hoping he does well. But it's going to be a very tried and true moment for him where he needs to get better and start breaking into those upper echelons. Otherwise, you are at risk of being replaced in the following year. And one of the main reasons why I have Shopify this low is because of B-Boy. I'm not sold that he's going to come into the league and just be great like he was in other regions. I think there is a skill gap, and I think he might get checked a little bit here. Rounding out the bottom 4, I do have my own 100 Thieves. I'm not going to go too much into this. I have already talked about it in depth on the Rendezvous, which is my 100 Thieves series. Please go check that out if you want to see all of my 20 minutes talking about 100 Thieves and their upcoming week and their schedule and why I have them ranked where I do for my Spring Split power rankings. Breaking into the top 4, we've got FlyQuest. I think there's a lot to be excited for if you're a FlyQuest fan this split. You have one of the former MVPs of the last 2 years in Inspired. Bwippo still looked pretty good even though he took a year off. Jensen has always been a rock in the mid lane, but you do have a rookie bot lane to a certain extent. You got Masu, who's going to be newer to the league, and Busio, who didn't have his greatest rookie split last year, even though he was overall solid, I would say. A lot of room to improve. Every team from this point up, I think, can win the LCS. I think FlyQuest has that opportunity, if everything clicks, to go on a run and take it all. But the question that remains in my head for them is, will the big personalities on this roster ultimately work out? Even Busio talked about it when he spoke with Travis Gafford, that you got a lot of cooks in the kitchen here. You got Busio, you got Bwippo, and you have Inspired, who tend to be a little bit more vocal and like opinionated in their ways. Can you get that to mesh out? If you can, it could be incredibly exciting and exhilarating to watch this team play, as they have weird and unique picks that will be a blast to see week in and week out. Or it could flounder, because I'm not going to lie, I can't look at FlyQuest, especially under the current iteration of management and everybody else, and not worry about what happened last year. They had on paper one of the strongest rosters in the region, and it didn't work out. So maybe what happens when you have a middling roster, or like a 4th place roster as I see it? Do things change then because the weight of expectations are not on there? Maybe. But until they make it through a full year of it, I'm always going to be worried about it in the back of my head of what could possibly happen as the year goes on. At number 3, I've got Team Liquid, who, even though they are different, is kind of the same. We've got a familiar face returning in the top lane in Impact, and Umpty coming over to start in top jungle. They pair alongside the returning faces of APA, Yawn, and CoreJJ, which was already 3rd last split, notably with Piosik playing pretty well towards the end of the year, so Umpty's got big shoes to step into. But I do think that Impact is potentially going to be better than what Summit was. Maybe not in lane, but their team fighting should be better. Yawn is a great laner, struggled a little bit in team fights as the year went on, but I think there's a lot of improvement for this roster, and I want to see APA do incredibly well. This will now be his first full year with a roster that he might actually be able to get more communication and input in than just a few words here and there, given the whole Korean-speaking roster last year. Umpty is fluent in English, Impact already speaks English, and obviously it'll be fairly easy to convert to. So I'm hoping that they do incredibly well this year. APA, Yawn, and CoreJJ, notably CoreJJ, need to step up their level of play from where they were last split if they want to try and contend with the top 2. NRG at number 2 might not make some people happy. Ultimately, I think they've upgraded their only roster change from Ignar, who was famously good on engaged champions and not as great on enchanter or mages, to Huhi, who is one of the best shot callers that we have in the LCS, can play mages. His enchanters are a little bit iffy at times, and is also really good at engaged champions as well. So overall, you would think, why would they not stay at 1? Well, we'll get into Cloud9 in a bit, but I do have faith that this roster will be contending for the title. I think it is 1 and 2 between them and Cloud9 until somebody else steps up to their level. Palafox is one of the best mid laners in the league. Actually, I would say as of right now, he is the best mid laner in the league until Jojo Pune beats him otherwise, because he's the title holder. But I got the chance to catch up with Palafox and talk about the year upcoming.
How's the offseason treating you?
I mean, I got sick right after Worlds. I got sick, and then I finally got better, and then I got sick 2 weeks later, and then that happened again and again. So I got sick 4 times.
Jesus.
In my off season. So I mean, it just kind of sucked. I don't feel like I've really had like that much of a break, but I haven't really played League either. So it's like
Drastically different though than prior off seasons.
Yeah, I mean, my off season started super late compared to starting like 4 or 5 months with no League, right? Whereas this one is like I have 1 month, 1.5 months with no League. So
does it change your perspective coming into the split? Like, obviously, I know Worlds in and of itself is like a major event that kind of pushes the timeline later, but just like we're 5 months removed now from you guys winning the LCS title. Does that impact like how like week 1 of LCS this year feels compared to prior years?
Not so much. I think it's like, well, at least for me. I don't know about how anybody else feels, but usually at the end of the season, I always go to Korea to make sure, like, I don't know, it's like to prove something to myself a little bit. The only thing that's different is I stopped playing League deeper into the season, so I barely started playing in like December 30th. Like December 30th, 31st, around that time, and I haven't even played like that much. So I'm probably gonna be a little bit slow out of the gate. I'm not sure for how my other teammates are gonna feel, but yeah, I think that's the only thing that's different is I just waited so long to start playing League again.
And then ramps up coming into the season. I mean, everybody talks about there are teams that start hot, teams that start slow. So
yeah,
as long as you get the best of 5s, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I know you said you haven't played much, but are there any champions that I don't want to ask you what that you think are strong, because then that gets into like draft picks and what you guys would want to do. But like, is there any champions that you think are weak that would really need some love right now?
I think any champion that uses Everfrost that doesn't have a good mythic item that has to buy Luden's companion needs a buff. That item sucks. Like, just hands down, it's awful.
Apologies on the dogs.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I think the new Luden's item, yeah, it just sucks. Like, I don't know what Riot was thinking. They were like, they buffed other items to be like better than the old items, right? And now there's a lot of mages that don't really have like a good mythic anymore, because if Luden sucks and Everfrost is an item, now you're just looking at Seraphs, but not like Ari's not gonna go Seraphs. And then you're like, oh, does she want the like Malignance thing? But that item kind of sucks on her. Like anybody who's not going Seraphs is kind of gonna be taking a little bit of a hit. And if they have mana pool issues and they need to buy a Lost Chapter item, then those champions are probably going to be a lot weaker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Coming into this split, I think it's safe to say most people have you and Cloud9 as 1 and 2 in the league. What do you think gives you the edge over them? And why do you think it's fair, the perception that people have of putting them on your level despite not having played a game?
I mean, I think no matter what, look, I was taught this, and the reason why this is the reason why I believe NA can win Worlds. All right. In 2022, I scrimmed against T1 like the day or 2 days before they played, right? And in scrims, we were just like through a team of NA players together. I had not played a single game in 2 months, and I kind of entered the first game, but the second game, we were kind of running them for a little bit, but their team play was better, right? I really do think that like every single split, every single season, because there's so many changes, like what's gonna matter is at the end of the day, like team communication and team synergy. And frankly, right now, I know that C9 needs to build it up a little bit, and we need to build it up a little bit, because Vulcan is new for C9, JoJo's new for C9. For us, Huhi's new for us. And I think we're actually going to be pretty similar in level, and it's just going to be up to like whoever has like better team synergy. And at the end of the day, it's just like a best of one. So like, I don't really put too much stock into it, you know.
That's fair. Well, you got to wait and see when best of 5 finally gets around, which is still 2 months away, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that's impressed you so far?
In scrims, not so much. I think I've been more impressed by like the academy teams that we've been scrimming, mostly because, all right, here's my theory. All right, academy teams are better because they kind of play throughout the year and they're like more up to date. Like their players just play a lot more, right? And LCS players don't actually play that much more. They start playing more during the season, and usually like they're the ones that can like adapt faster. So I mean, realistically, the only people that have impressed me are academy teams. Other than that, other teams are kind of meh right now.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I wish we had some sort of competition between the two to get something. Like, I don't know, even like those 2 weeks that you guys have off. I really wish there was like some sort of online tournament that just threw everybody in the mix and just like let everybody have it. Double elimination bracket, and just over 2 weeks have fun with it.
If you wanted to really hype up academy players, I mean, this will always skew towards academy players, I'm not gonna lie, just because like LCS players truly don't like play when they're break.
Yeah.
But if Riot made a tournament in the beginning of the split where the academy players are like mechanically good and the LCS players are kind of mechanically bad, like you would see a lot of upsets.
That's amazing.
I think it would change perception a lot. So
it's a bit kind of like a Demacia Cup in a way.
Yeah.
Interesting. That'd be I'd love to see it. Will we ever get it? I don't know.
Probably not, but it'd be interesting.
Do you think anybody from NRG finally gets all pro this split?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that like CLG was always like 4th, 5th. Nobody ever really thought they were good. So now that people actually like think we're good, and we've kind of like been building it up for so long, I think like, let's say even if we didn't play as good as all pro, I think that we might still get it this year. But it's more likely that like we'll probably play well and still get all pro.
I mean, I hope so. I'd like to see you guys finally break that curse. Although I don't know if that's a bad thing if you break that curse and then go into playoffs and have to deal with, because like you guys have performed well with the opposite being true. So
yeah,
I don't know if I want to. I'm a big fan of like karma and not messing with stuff like that. Like, don't shave the playoff beard. Don't do anything else like that. Like I'd be I don't know. Final four things I got for you are all TikTok questions. So before I get to that, is there anything you want to chat about? Like anything that's on your mind, whether it's league, life, anything?
No, it's not so much. I was just gonna say that like probably hype that Mark Z is our new commissioner. I hope he does good stuff for us. So
I hope so too.
My eyes, the split go to Dokla, who had some up and down moments throughout the regular season, but obviously turned it on come playoffs and Worlds. I want to see him establish himself as the #1 top laner in the league. If he can do that, then I think NRG puts himself in a clear advantage to possibly take this title back to back. But they have to go through the reigning MVP in Jojo Pune, the spring juggernauts that are Cloud9, and a roster that only got better from the weak points that it had last year. MNS clearly fell off at the end. They replaced him with the MVP. Sven was a clear problem outside of Enchanters. Well, they brought back one of their most historic supports ever to play for Cloud9 and Vulcan. Now, yes, you should look at Vulcan and be like, yeah, he had a down year last year, and can he rebound? You're not going to get a better chance and a better roster than what you're getting right now with Cloud9. But personally, I have faith that he will. Blaber also needs to step up this split. While they look great, and yes, they technically only lost one best of 5 last year in summer to NRG in the finals, they notably got gapped. If you stop and think about it, Cloud9 literally only lost one best of 5 last year in summer playoffs, and that was literally the finals where they collapsed themselves. You take that one series out of the equation, they were by far the best team all year on a domestic level. So with that, I think they rightfully do deserve to be the #1 spot. And I got the chance to talk to Blaber ahead of the split.
Obviously, you guys kind of ended the year on an iffier note, both domestically and internationally. What was your thought process like going into the off season? Where were you at mentally, and where are you at now as we enter the season?
Going in the off season, I knew I wanted to stay at C9. So that was honestly the first thing I did, and just had to talk with Jack. Like, he was like, "Hey, you want to stay?" I was like, "Yeah." So that was pretty simple for me going in the off season. But yeah, for us off season, we were just trying to build the best team. Obviously, there's budget cuts going around in pretty much every team, I would say, going into this year. So trying to make the best team with what we had, and it was a long story that I don't really want to get into, but
Perfectly fine.
we ended up getting JoJo. That was a struggle, but he ended up choosing to come to C9, and from there on we didn't really do much after we signed him. Right, we just took some time off because we spent a lot of time in off season, and after that, I took a vacation with my family, and then we came back. We started practice about a week ago, and yeah, here we are.
Nice. Hopefully the vacation was good.
yeah, it was nice.
Nice. I mean, most people at this point, with the JoJo Pune signing, with Vulcan coming in, safe to say most people have you guys 1-2 with NRG. Most people that I've seen so far have you actually first. Do you think it's right to put you guys at first? Like, I know you probably feel like you're the team to beat no matter what. But is it like clear cut that you think that you're better than NRG going into the split?
I think that well, for me, obviously I'm confident that we're the best team, and I'm very sure that we have what it takes to win the split, but realistically I don't think we're as dominant as people might think. I don't think we're just gonna come in there and completely shit on all the other teams.
Yeah.
I think maybe we will, right? But I don't expect that, I would say. And yeah, definitely not expecting something like 2020 spring where we're just winning every game, But I do feel like we're a very strong team, and even with 2 new signings, it's we did change our team, right? Support is a big role to change for team dynamic wise, and even though I've played with Vulcan before, it has been a while, and JoJo obviously brings different things to the table than MNS did, so it's still stuff we're working on, and I do think we'll be the best team, but I think it's not going to be we're going to just stomp everyone,
For the longest time, I think you and Fudge, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are around the same age, aren't you?
I'm 2 years older than him.
Okay.
Yeah.
The two of you were always, for the most part, the young guns of the team, but it seems like that mantle's kind of been passed along to JoJo Pune now as he makes his 3rd year in the league. Is there any advice that, even with only a week of scrims or just like being with him for a short amount of time, is there anything that like you've kind of passed on, or even vice versa, that he's kind of shown you so far?
I'm not sure like there's anything I've needed to really pass on to him. Like I know I've been playing a lot longer than he has, but he still, won a split before, gone to Worlds, gone to MSI. Like he's had a lot of experiences, and it's been really nice working with him just because he is really receptive to feedback. He has a big champ pool. He's willing to learn, and yeah, he's just easy to get along with. So I'm excited about how the season's gonna go. But practice has been going good for us so far.
Nice. I think this year, more so than any other year, we've had rookies enter. Obviously, you got Sniper coming in at the fresh age of 17, but you've also got younger players on FlyQuest, on a bunch of other different teams. You were kind of one of the original people that came into the LCS. Like, everybody knew that, like, we didn't know how great you were going to be, but everybody had this expectation that you were kind of like one of those up-and-coming talents that was going to be the face of the league at some point, and you grew into it. What advice would you have to the younger players in the league coming in now that might have those expectations, might be, fresh around the block? Like, what advice would you give them that you wish you knew whenever you came into the league?
I mean, I would just say like stick to your style, like just play what you're good at. Like realistically, I mean, I personally, like from experience, the gap between, Academy and LCS, it's very big. It's much bigger than, I thought it was. I was very cocky back then. Most players were,
Yeah.
Sorry, but like you think you're like the shit when you win Academy, or you're stomping Academy, and the reality is the difference is very big. And I would say like you should stick to what got you to where you are. I think I did that, but like it's not like advice I had. It's just like at the time Reaper let me just play what I was good at. He wanted me to play what I was good at. He even banned me from champs that I was bad at. So just stick to what you're good at, because like that's what got you there. Like your play style, your aggressive champs are what got you there. And then I would say like once you get really good at like what you're playing, you should expand your champ pool and learn every style, because eventually you want to be a complete player, right? You want to learn how to play everything, but unless you're like insane,
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard for you like in the first couple like weeks that you play, to just play everything.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of one of your champions that you really do enjoy, Kindred got a little bit of love in the cinematic. What's your thoughts on her making her appearance?
Yeah, I saw that. I was pretty excited. I'm hoping Riot buffs her because she was in the cinematic. That's what I'm hoping for. I told my teammates, hey, look, these champs are in the cinematic. I think Riot might add a new skin and then buff them. You never know. They gotta get the sales done. So
Yeah.
I'm like, be on the lookout for these champs, and yeah, hopefully Kindred comes back.
I mean, I hope so too. It's always fun seeing you play them, and it's like, if obviously Kindred's getting love with the lore, and then you come to the LCS and you guys are playing on live patch now,
Right.
and like there's all this hype around it, that it's like, okay, well now he's playing Kindred as well, and then you pop off on it. It's like, oh, that has so much potential written all over it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm really excited every time I get to play Kindred. Last split, I was able to actually play a lot of Kindred with Milio, with Sven. So hopefully, I can pull it out again this split.
Hope to see it. Any champions that you think need love besides Kindred in 14.1, the new patch so far?
I mean, I'm excited to see the Skarner rework, to be honest. I think that champ definitely needs love in the jungle role. But it's not coming out for a while. I don't think it'll even be out during our split. I don't actually know.
I think, yeah, by the time they say late spring, which for you guys, patch will probably be locked for playoffs, so maybe MSI at best, but even then, probably summer.
Yeah, I mean, Olaf getting some love would be great. I think that champ is pretty weak right now, so I wouldn't mind if they buffed him. But otherwise, there's not too many champs that come to mind. I'm enjoying playing new champs because I think it's unlikely that next season will be Sejuani, Maokai, Rel meta. So at least not at the beginning. Riot might make it like that if they feel like.
I pray to God not. I'm down to see anything new at this point.
So yeah, I'm excited for the new champs regardless, because to me it doesn't matter as much like what champions are meta, as long as like there's a little bit of change. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's been, you guys have won what, 3 out of the last 4 spring splits, for C9? 2020, 2021, 2022 was EG, and then 2023, right?
We won 3 of the last 4 springs. Yes.
Like, what expectation do you have of yourself individually to get it to the point where you guys can get that 4 out of 5?
For me, I'm just trying to play like how I've always played, but improve on that, I guess. Like, I play for a long time now, right? And it's like pretty obvious to myself at least, and maybe the fans, like what my strengths and weaknesses are. And I feel like I've worked on my weaknesses a lot, and I've gotten a lot better, like as a player. I feel like I'm more of a, like I can play multiple styles now, and I definitely don't think I could have when I was first joining. I think I wasn't that great at all the styles. And I think going into spring, like if we all just play how I know we can play, I think we'll be able to win.
Nice. Floor is all yours. If you got anything you want to talk about in general, anything that's on your mind, any topics that you want to get out there, let me know, because these are equally as much about you as they are, us asking questions.
No, just hopefully, well, thanks to, I guess, Riot for bringing it back to the weekends.
God bless.
I saw that the stadium is sold out on opening day, so I'm excited to see the fans, and I'm really happy that people are still really excited to see like LCS start again, going to the next split, and I hope to meet like some fans there and interact with them. So yeah, just thank you guys for the support, and we're gonna make LCS great again.
I'll plug it here as well that we're having a New York City watch party in OSNYC in downtown Manhattan for opening day. Anybody that wants to come out, come on out. You guys play against the finals rematch with NRG.
Yeah.
How many? I won't ask you who wins because I know who you're going to say, but how long do you think the game goes?
How long do I think the game goes?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a 26-minute C9 win.
The week 1 schedule you are seeing to my right, but your left, I think, whenever this comes out. And I've got my predictions on there. We're going to do a prediction tracker, so be sure to put yours down in the comments below and give me your thoughts on the C9 NRG matchup that we're going to see on the very first day. Because I'm going to end the video with this, and I'm going to let Croissant say his final piece as we go.
The general consensus seems to be that people were favoring Cloud9 to win this split. For the record, I've publicly said that I think C9 is probably favored to win both splits given the players that they have. Do you think it's fair that you guys are being bumped down? And on top of that, do you feel like you guys have gotten the level of respect for winning the LCS title in summer that you think you deserve? Or like, did all the attention kind of go towards Worlds? Because like I see a lot of people talking about how you guys made it to quarterfinals and all this, but there's way less conversation about beating Cloud9, winning the title, and like how that translates coming back to the domestic league now.
Yeah, I think look, if you talk to a lot of people at NRG, I think you'll get the answer that yeah, it's fucking unfair and we proved something, and that should be until that is proven, until C9 proves himself, right? Any super team, there should just be a clear suspension of belief there in like what C9 in their program, in their players. For me personally, I really enjoy having a target, and for me C9 is an easy target, and easy both in terms of someone that I think will push us to be better as a team and to level up our domestic play and international play, like eventually. But at the end of the day, C9 is a team that has proven themselves across many different splits, and so my goal is there's nothing more than I want. There's nothing that I want more than to beat C9 twice in finals, because that I don't know how often that's happened, right? I don't know how often it's been the same teams back to back in the same final, and for it to go the same way both times. Yeah, and it's like, for me, so there's the aspect of C9's historic, like their legacy in the league and their pedigree, and like we're on split 2. That's what people have to know. We win this split and we will have 100% win rate. We'll keep 100% win rate of the LCS, and at the end of the day, I remember hearing that like C9 was talking about Worlds, or they were like very relaxed before we'd even played them in Jersey. And, you know, I think there's a lot of things that go through their head and probably regrets there, where it's like, if they were more focused, we could have easily beaten NRG. And maybe fans think that too, right? And there's a compelling narrative for people to build there. But for me, it just comes down to, like, I couldn't live with myself if I had feel like I'd thrown away a championship in that sense. I feel like I've given it my 100% in every split, and I never assumed that you know, every team is worthy of respect, but every team is also beatable. And I've always carried that mentality, and that's a mentality that I carry with C9. So yeah, like I don't care if people think that we're going in as the favorites, or if we're going in as a second or third or fourth power ranked team. I think that C9 might have a little bit of a mental block against us as we go forward. That's our role as NRG, and that's where I place us against them. But yeah, maybe we beat C9 and another team beats us, and C9 beats that team. Maybe it's rock paper scissors. I think it's fun. It's cool to see how the split unfolds, because I've really enjoyed seeing like a lot of the different new roster iterations, and yeah, just when you add those different rosters and all the chaos and all the adaptations that teams will have to make due to the format changes, you just have a lot of hype building, even for me on the staff side, and like being able to see like how teams are playing against each other right now, right? So
That's it for this week's episode of The Pit. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy all the games this weekend. And if you're in New York City, be sure to come out to OSNYC, where our watch party kicks off at 3 p.m. on Saturday. See you there. Adios.